Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel, Librarian California. And today's topic is Librarian versus Paranormal Expert or Paranormal Expert. Now, right off the bat, I'm not saying whether somebody who has paranormal abilities is true or not, whether ghosts are real or spirits are real. That's actually not what I'm saying. You'll understand what I mean by expert a little bit later on in the story. So, I used to work in a special collections, in a special library, it was an archives. So the majority of people that came in were genealogists, people who were looking for who their ancestors were, where they lived, where they were buried, trying to discover where they came from. Now, that was fine. And a lot of people want to be related to a lot of famous people. So I regularly had to tell people, no, you're not related to Jesse James, or you're not related to Abraham Lincoln. Sorry. No, I'm related to Abraham Lincoln. I'm sorry, you're not. That family tree's been done and you're not in it. Now, you may be related to, say, Sarah Bush Lincoln. You could be related to Abraham Lincoln's wife and her descendants and her family, but you're not related to Abraham Lincoln. That family tree finished a long time ago. So again, I'm sorry you're not in it, but I am happy to help you figure out who you are related to. Now, that was a typical interaction that happened many times. But you never know when you're going to be surprised. And so one day, a woman walked in and said she needed to research who was living in a home. And I said, okay, I can help you do that. So I helped her sign in. And when you go to an archives, you're often asked to sign a rules and consent form. You're saying things like, I'm not going to use a pen, I'll only use a pencil. I won't eat food or drink around the collections, as the library and archives are trying to preserve these things. So there's a variety of rules and things that you consent to when you go to an archives. And so I suggested, how can I help you? And she said, well, I'm a paranormal expert. How can I help you? And she said, I'm a paranormal expert and I'm researching a spirit or ghost, or I can't remember, a presence, what she said, inside her client's home. And she needed to determine who it was. And I said, well, I don't think I'm qualified to determine who that is or what that is, but I can help you determine who lived there. I said, I would suggest looking at the city directories. They're over there. And she said, okay. And I said, do you need any assistance? She said, no, I know what I'm doing. Okay. So I went back to doing my job and I watched her pull out, several of these directories. And these directories are huge, by the way. They're about this thick, they're about this wide. They weigh a ton. They probably weigh 15 to 20 pounds, especially those from the early 20th century. It was literally everyone who was living in a city. So these things were massive books. So I saw her pull out, 5 and she looked through those. And then she pulled out, 10 more and she looked through those. And then when she hit about 20, I got up and I said, by any chance, do you need any assistance? And she said, no, I know what I'm doing. I'm a paranormal expert. And I thought, okay. Now I didn't roll my eyes, but that's what I thought internally. So I went back and sat down and started doing my work again. And then I saw her pull out another 10 years and another 10 years. And so I went up to her again and I said, are you doing okay? Do you need anything? She's like, no, I'm fine. Okay. Now, here's a tip. If a librarian or archivist asks you more than once if you need assistance, they're probably sending up a big signal that you need assistance. We're here to help you. Please let us help you. Now, what can you do if somebody doesn't want your help? So I sat back down again and she proceeded to pull out more and more. Now I started to think to myself, she's not going to put those away. I'm going to have to put all those away. They're starting to pile up pretty big. I'm going to try one more time. And this time, instead of saying, can I help you? What I said was, can I make a suggestion to you? And she said, okay. I said, why don't you skip ahead? Maybe 10 years, 20 years ahead. Well, how will that help? And I said, well, people didn't move around a ton back then, especially if they owned a home. It's not like we are today where we move all over the place. So if you skip ahead 10 years or 15 years or 20, and the owner's still listed there, the person who's living in that home, they still live there. And then you could speed up your process and you could determine how long they live there. They may have built the house, they may have lived there the entire time. So that way you'll save some time. And she said, okay. She didn't say thank you. She kind of dismissed what I said or didn't really understand how that was going to help her, but whatever. So she did skip ahead a little bit, and I saw her skip ahead even more and more and more and take my suggestion. And so, again, the person, if they're still living there 20 years from now, they didn't magically sell their house, move away, buy their house back again, move back in. It's the same person. So when she was packing up her stuff, I went up to her again and said, oh, did you figure out where you're looking for? And she said, yes, the same person lived in the house the whole time. That must be who the ghost is. And again, I don't remember if she said ghost or spirit or presence. And I thought, okay. And I said, do you need anything else? And she said, no. And she just walked away. She didn't say thank you, which is fine. A lot of people don't say thank you. She didn't put away any of the books, which is fine. That's my job, I guess, too. But there's like 50 or 60 years worth of books here. This is like a workout. So I proceeded to put away all the books in that. And while I'm doing that, I'm thinking to myself, did she just say that's who was the ghost? So whoever lived in the house was the ghost? That's all it took? Somebody paid you to do that? What? And again, I'm not saying whether that's, true or not, or whether ghosts are real or not. That's not what I'm getting at. But that's not a whole lot of research for an expert to do. And again, I'm not saying whether they might have been an expert paranormal person. That's fine. But maybe if you've never been into this archives, or you don't spend a lot of time in archives and libraries, maybe ask questions, maybe take advice. I don't know, what would you think if I walked into your client's house and said, Sam, that's it. Sam is the ghost. I don't just come in with, like, I'm a librarian. Sam is your ghost. I don't have any credentials for this. It's just like another example. I don't walk into my lawyer's office and say, I read all these John Grisham books. I know what's going to go on here. Or, I think I got this. Can you just sign the paperwork? Or, I know how this is going to go. So you don't really need to charge me $500 an hour. No, I would never do that. I would get laughed out of there. And again, I didn't laugh at the person. I didn't judge them. I didn't judge them for being a paranormal expert. I judged them for declaring I'm an expert to a librarian. I'll tell you that most people that declare themselves an expert there, I'm an expert historian, or I'm a scholar. I don't need your help. Peasant, librarian, archivist, whatever you are. Just get me my books, my carts, my boxes. Oftentimes those people had no idea what they were doing. And again, consider that the people who work there daily, who may have processed that collection, who may know it intimately, who may have spent years processing it, or who has looked at it so many times because so many researchers want to use the same collection, we just might know something that you don't. That's why you're there researching. So I loved people, historians, scholars, that were like, oh, do you have any suggestions? This is my topic. Could you consider something? And I would say things like, this time I don't know. Or, you know what, though? I know the inventory is, very detailed in that, but there's some ambiguity over here in this box. And I think what you're looking is over here. Or there's a golden nugget over here. They would be like, oh my God, I had no idea. So, that was always cool when you'd help somebody discover something really new. Occasionally, they'd be so excited. You'd be acknowledged in the book. I've been acknowledged in several books, like, thank you so much for your help. You helped me, find something amazing or hadn't been undiscovered yet or hadn't been published about. That's really cool. But the people who I'm an expert, I don't need your help. I can read an inventory. Well, an inventory might say this folder's about 1920 elections. It may not say that, like, oh, there's other stuff over here that's also related to that, or there's not a detailed inventory of every single thing that's inside of there. Just take help sometimes. Again, librarians and archivists are there to help you. But those people, it's really hard to want to help when they dismiss you, they tell you don't need your help, or they're an expert. I don't really know too many people that are experts in a topic that go around saying, I'm an expert. I don't need your help. To each their own. But anyways, that's my story about a librarian versus a paranormal expert. Or is it expert? Again, I'll leave that for you to decide. But if you've had any interesting run-ins with people in the library, archives, patrons, please feel free to leave them below. Make sure to leave them anonymous. We don't need to divulge anything specific about any person. We're always there to help anybody and everybody. But sometimes people want to resist our help more than others. So anyways, that's it for today's video. And do me a favor, as always, go visit your local library.